to listen to the Lap Traffic Podcast.
What is up, Lap Traffic Nation? Welcome to episode 176 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. I am your host, the Professor Brandon Crowd. Hope you all had a great weekend. I hope you all are staying sane. It is day 30 of sweatpants and hoodies. Yeah, I guess that's okay. I'm not going to complain about not having to leave the home office and go to the actual office. But man, what I wouldn't give to go out to a restaurant or a bar and catch a live sporting event, man. I hope that is right around the corner. Of course, I hope you and your families are staying safe and healthy. So what's everyone up to now? I mean, there might be some new Tiger King coming out, which I'll be tuning into that. But man, what is everyone doing to keep the social distancing and stay insane? Hit me up. Let me know. Did some video chats with some friends and stuff this weekend, which is cool. Trying to keep in contact with as many people as possible. The weekend, man, it was beautiful up here for the most part in Metro Detroit. And I say that because it was sunny in mid-50s, not like some of you people down there in the South where it's 80 and sunny. I hope that gets here sooner rather than later. Got some projects done around the new house. Window trims painted, the decks all nice and stained for whenever somebody can finally come over and sit out on the deck. Figure might as well keep the wife happy while there isn't much as far as racing is concerned, so that way full attention can be given once we're back to green. This past weekend was also WrestleMania, which I'm going to have to talk about that. I'll do that a little later, but I promise it won't be that much. Last week, 2 shows posted, which was so cool. Tuesday with David and Andrew from the MOATF podcast. Go check that out. I'm trying to get them to come back onto the air with their own show, even if it's a special appearance. So go check that out. And then Thursday, the bonus show with Larry McReynolds. That was awesome. I encourage you to go check that out. Larry talked about what it's like getting ready and prepping for these iRaces from a broadcasting perspective. Had a great conversation with him. It's not dated by any means, so make sure you check that out. Let's see. This weekend, some iRacing at Bristol, which, there might have been more interesting action that occurred after that race than on the track itself. We'll get to that in a little bit. Lucky Dog and Lap Down picks from you guys are back. Aaron Studwell will be on to talk a little bit. Got the giveaway still going on. And, man, Lap Traffic Fantasy players, hold tight, man. Gosh, I want to get that thing cranked back up. And we'll do it as soon as we go back green, that's for sure. And tonight from Hendrick Motorsports, Charlie Langenstein is going to be on here. I've already recorded it. I know you are in for a treat. It is an awesome interview, and not even an interview, man. Charlie just told some cool stories, and I am excited to drop that in here in just a second. So kick back, relax. Grab a beer, grab a drink, grab a Coke, whatever you want, and enjoy tonight's show. So let's get things rolling. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his first appearance on the Lap Traffic Podcast. He's been involved in racing for over 40 years. He's been a part of 6 NASCAR championship teams. He's won the Heisman Trophy of HMS. Welcome to the Lap Traffic Podcast, Charlie Langenstein. Welcome, man. What's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing out there in Michigan this evening?
Oh, man, I tell you what, this weekend the weather finally broke. And I say broke because it was sunny and 50, so I was outside in a T-shirt.
Well, that's a lot better than a snow shovel. You just never know. But weather here in Charlotte's been great. Today it's nearly 80 degrees, and I had to actually go outside and do a little grass cutting with the lawnmower. So I was doing a little social distancing.
Yes, I can't wait to fire up the lawnmower. You said it, man. Social distancing. How is that going for you?
I'll tell you what. I've always. It's like everybody else in the motorsports. You kind of work, and all of a sudden one day to pull your spark plug wires off, and you're sitting still up on jack stands. And I'll tell you, man, it's been crazy. Thank goodness for the Twitter. It's been with Wrench Twister. We're just kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the sport and other avenues of the sport and the e-racing stuff. I'm a fan of the sport too. I mean, auto racing is about the only thing I really know. So it's the social distancing thing is not being able to work, but still trying to see what's going on out there.
I tell you, it's been an adjustment, and for me, the hardest thing is like, man, my buddy owns a sports bar. Like I used to love going up there to, whether it was football, baseball, or race,
absolutely
whatever, just to get out of the house, decompress after working for the week or whatever, and just go chill somewhere else. And that's what's kind of been like the hardest thing for me. It's like, man, I can't go and chill somewhere else. And that's been the hardest thing.
Yeah, no, I'm lucky. I've got a shop right here at my house. So, my hobbies is I still build race cars, and I do. My son Austin Langenstein, he races, and so we still dabble with some stuff there. And so I always got something going on out there on a chassis plate or some type of project going on. So that's what I've been doing a lot, other than the honeydew list that's mounting up left and right. But I'm still tinkering every day, which really helps get me through my days. You know what I'm saying?
That's all. I hear you. Charlie, man, born and raised on the East Coast, you in Jersey. I got to ask, where do your stick and ball allegiances lie, being from Jersey?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's kind of crazy. I was born in New Jersey. I was raised in Delaware, so I'm kind of like right on the line of Baltimore and Philadelphia, right? I lean more toward the Philadelphia sports.
Okay.
Because my father's from Philadelphia, my mother's from New Jersey. I lived in Philadelphia for a while. Pretty much anything Philadelphia. I lived in Philly for a while. Most of my relatives still live there. So I lean toward that. But, I also paid attention. I was a big Baltimore Orioles fan with Cal Ripken and even back farther than that with Brooks Robinson and all those guys like that, Boog Powell and just all those guys back then, but everything leans toward the Philadelphia area.
Sure. Well, you mentioned Ripken there. I don't know if you've heard, Al Kaline from the great Detroit Tigers passed away today.
I just saw that. I just saw that today. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Tom Dempsey, the one that hit the 63-yarder.
Yes.
I guess he played for Philadelphia. I think when he did that, if my memory stands correct, when he did that 63-yarder, which stood for a long, long time, and I think the coronavirus got him. So there's still a lot of stuff going on out there.
Absolutely, yeah, man. I miss. I'm torn with the Tigers right now because it's like, all right, they're not on. I love to watch them baseball, but at least I'm not watching them struggle, because this was going to be another 100-game loss season for sure. So it's definitely a bittersweet moment right now without having Tiger baseball on. But
I understand. I mean, I kind of like watching the Tiger, or not the Tigers, pretty much the Lions. They usually play was it like Christmas Day or something?
Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. Yeah, they always seem to play, and then that's about the only time I get caught up in that deal there. And but I try to pay attention to all types of sports. Auto racing is definitely where my heart is. But
sure.
I love all sports. I try to pay attention to every bit of it.
Charlie, you've been around racing your entire life, from dirt to stock car to everything in between. Take us through a journey, if you can, where you started, where you ended up, and kind of the evolution of your career in auto racing.
Well, it goes back I was born in 1960. My father raced race cars in New Jersey. There's a three track circuit there in New Jersey. Raced a lot in New Jersey, and I grew up around the race cars. And then I just kind of grew up working on cars, race cars, and then I always wanted to be a race car driver, right? So my dad preached to me, if you're going to be a good race car driver, you got to know how to work on a car. And I didn't have a problem at all ever working on a car, and I even tried to instill that into my son Austin. So basically, I dabbled, I used to jump the fences in New Jersey because you had to be 18 to get in the pits, and I'd crawl underneath fences and, climb over barbed wire and do whatever you got to do till you get in there and then get thrown back out again. But so we did what we had to do to go racing. And then we did a lot of that. And then I got hooked up to a race team who was well funded out of New Jersey, Statewide Racing. The driver back at the time was Jimmy Horton, who had a good NASCAR career. Very good race car driver. Could drive anything, sprint cars, modifieds, you name it, Jimmy could drive it. So I worked with him for quite a while. And then after that, worked with Brett Hearn and was his crew chief, won quite a bit of races with those guys. And then I started building some cars with a fellow by the name of Walt Breeding out of Delaware. And then I started driving some cars. And so, but always, it got to the same point where, working on a race car in the Northeast, you can only make so much money.
Sure.
So back in about around 79 or so, I went to Trenton Speedway, and they had an IndyCar race along with a modified race. So I snuck in the pits there, and I got hooked up with a fellow by the name of Larry Cannon, and he had an IndyCar, and a $low deal. I mean, it was him and maybe one other fellow just kind of working on IndyCar for the race. And that was when CART and USAC was kind of splitting and just starting over. And I'll never forget, Roger Penske was kind of funding the deal. And he made sure that it was a televised race. He made sure that he opened the gates and let anybody come in for nothing, because he wanted full grandstands. It was a televised deal. So I helped Larry Cannon, and he was a $low team, so I kind of met him, and then helped him that day, and then we could be friends. In the following year, I graduated high school in 1980. I took the month of May off, went to Indianapolis, and helped him on his IndyCar. We qualified for the 500. We had an old Offenhauser motor with a Wildcat chassis. There's no way we should have even made the race. We didn't have no money. But back then it was the Penske cars were strong. The Chaparral won it with Rutherford, things of that nature. But we managed as a bunch of ham and eggers. We lived in an apartment right down the street from the Speedway for the month of May. I slept on basically either the floor or a beach chair. We roughed it, man. And so we made the 500, and then one thing led to another. And then I wanted to go in. Yeah, at that point, I started having some opportunities. We raced in Mexico City that year, and they screwed the rooms up. So I get down to Mexico City, and I got rooming with a fella. His name was Chuck Sprague at the time, and he worked for Roger Penske Racing. At the time, he was a mechanic. So they bunched everybody in the rooms, and he was kind of like a roommate. And I didn't know him. He didn't know, I knew of him. And he actually offered me a job at the time to work for Penske Racing.
Wow.
And that's when they were based out of Reading, Pennsylvania. And, at that point, I made a big mistake then, because I didn't think I was ready for it yet. You know what I mean? Because at the time, here's a kid right out of high school, grassroots racer, no engineering degree, barely made it through high school because, we raced. I mean, I wasn't a bad student, but, but I wasn't definitely an engineer material, and I was a hands-on IndyCar guy at the time, right? So I turned the deal down, like being a dummy, and I kicked myself in the butt for years. And as it went on, Chuck Sprague actually went up and became like the president of the company. He's like the Tim Sidrick of the day. He's with Penske, he worked his way all the way up to the top, I think, and ran Penske race for a year, and for years, and then he went off to some stuff with Penske. Other entities of Penske. So I made a mistake there and didn't jump at that opportunity. But anyhow, I just kept pushing along. So I was working with Brett Hearn, and we were doing some modified racing, and we decided to do some Busch Grand National stuff. So we built a car, went down south, got the car. We built the car out of New Jersey. We raced the Busch Grand National Series out of New Jersey, which was unheard of back in the time. We ran about 15 or so races out of New Jersey, still running the modifieds, 80, 90, 100 times a year, and still trying to run 15 to 18 Busch races. So we did that, semi-successful. Brett's best finish ever was his first race ever at Dover Downs. We ran 10th in Busch car, and he had quite a career. He actually had some things going his way. Felix Sabatos, Tim Condor, some guys like that gave him an opportunity. We're looking at him to move him into the Busch Series and eventually into the Cup. And Brett was making so much money back then. He didn't want to eat bologna sandwiches for a while, I guess. But at the same time, that whole crop, you had when we were racing back then, Jimmy Spencer was a rookie. Jeff Burton was a rookie. Grissom, a lot of these guys that made it big time were kind of coming in at the same time we were. So it didn't work. Well, anyhow, I stayed the southern route, and then I got hooked up at Moroso. We won the Busch Championship in '89. I started in '88 with them. We won the Busch Championship in '89. Me and two other fellas, Mike Bumgarner and Gil Curley, actually started building the Cup cars for 1990 in '89. Excuse me, in conjunction of racing, for the Busch Championship and getting ready for the Cup Series. Well, we ran the Cup deal. Steve Bird was the crew chief back then, and then some management come in and made some changes. Steve went his separate way, and then they brought in Jake Elder. And we were doing okay. It was a lot of learning curve, some of the things we were doing on the cars then were kind of ahead of our time, and I don't think we had enough time to iron some things out. We were actually putting foam in the doors of the cars, of Robbie and Marissa's cars, like they're doing today.
Sure.
We were our chassis back then were we went up to we took a Laughlin chassis up to York, Pennsylvania, to Jerry Stahl headers, and Clyde Booth and myself. We actually under Clyde's direction, we actually worked on how stiff the chassis was and did some development work there. And so, long story made short, we did all that deal, and then Robbie died in the fall race of at North Wilkesboro, and then everything kind of went haywire then from there on. So then I worked with Moroso, and then I stayed there. Everyone else went to work with Robert Yates. I was actually offered to go to Yates as a group package, but I at the time I had a mobile home on Dick Moroso's property in Mooresville, and I stayed with Dick, and was doing some stuff, restoring some cars for Robbie's. One's actually down in the Talladega Museum, one of Robbie Mercer's Crown Petroleum cars is down there. I restored that, did some stuff like that. Well, at the time, my father-in-law was sick up north, and things were kind of up in the air. And I don't want to call it a mistake now, but what I did, I made a decision. I moved back up north and moved away from the south. And at that point, I kind of got away from everything. Went up north and started racing again. Was building dirt modifieds at Kneisel Speed Shop in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, and taking care of some race cars. And then I headed up the Freightliner team after a fellow by the name of Charlie DeAngelo moved on, and had a lot of success. But I was still itching to go south, and I had an opportunity to come back down in '97, and I took it. Moved back down south. I was built some cars for a friend of mine actually owned Richard Petty Driving School, and excuse me. So we actually designed and built, at the time we were building cars for Richard Petty's Driving School, and they had just opened up a venue at Walt Disney World down in Florida.
Yeah,
and
that's cool. Yeah.
So, and it was one of those deals where we had to get so many cars done, and we managed to get everything done. For a while, we fell behind because they were getting chassis from Hutchinson Pagan. Well, driving school takes second fiddle to a race team.
Sure.
So we were way behind. So I convinced Bob Lutz, who owns the school. I said, we got to start building these things in house. He says, we think we can. I said, damn right, I know we can. So I've heard a proposal together, what kind of equipment it was going to take and what it was going to take to do it. Long story made short, we started building stuff in house, and then we met the goal for Richard. So now the driving school down there in Disney, and then they kept had other they were opening up different places in Daytona, schools and stuff all over, and we kept building cars, and we were turnkey in cars. I mean, we were building chassis basically from the tube rack to the racetrack. So I told Richard, came in one day, and I said we got all these deals done. I said we went ahead and met all these goals. I said, I think you need to give me an opportunity to me and my boys to build a car for a race team. Well, he kind of laughed it off at first,
Sure.
So cat and hat. He come in there in the shop, and so he kept coming in, and I kept wearing him out with it. So Richard one day says, well, I'll tell you what. He said, why don't you? He said, I'll give you that opportunity. So you give Robbie Loomis a call and see what you guys can put together. And Richard just left it at that. Well, I called Loomis up, and we got talking about. Loomis says, I'll tell you what. I said, he said, why don't you build me a car? This is back in '97. He said, why don't you just build me a car? He said, I want to take that thing to Martinsville. And he says, build me a car for Martinsville. I said, all right. So we built the car from scratch, right? So Bobby Hamilton was their driver at the time. So it was a crazy situation. I don't really remember how their season was going, but all of a sudden I got a phone call from Loomis. He called me every week. How do you make out with the car? I said, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this. And Richard coming in, checking on it every now and then. He's in town. And so one day he calls me, how do you make it out in the car? I said, we just about got her done, man. He said, good, I got to have that thing. I said, I got to take that thing to Bristol. I said, Bristol? I said, you said you wanted a thing from Martinsville. Yeah, but I got to take it to Bristol. Well, I said, well, I'll tell you what, I need a couple more days. We're going to take it to Bristol.
Right. Yeah. Banks to flat surface.
Yeah. So, I had to put some different bracing in the car and look at a couple other things. So I conned him in to give me a couple more days. We took the car to Bristol, got it all done. And the best part about it was that they had some real smart people for Penny Enterprises at the time. Well, they took the chassis up there, and they had I can't remember the fellow's name off the top of my head, but he always wore suspenders. And he was like with Richard Petty forever. And this guy was like a perfectionist. And he these guys tried to pick that chassis apart. I mean, they were looking for stuff wrong, right? And lo and behold, it passed their test. You know what I mean? They did some measurements, and like my measurements were within thousands of like measurements that they're doing today. Nowadays you throw a tape measure away. You don't use a tape measure except for the big obvious stuff. Nowadays you use ferrule arms or different measuring devices. Yes. Yeah. Yep. So back then we take the car to Bristol. Right. And so I told all the guys in the shop, I said, listen, boys, we're all going to go to Bristol and watch this car that we built. And we did spur of the moment. So we decided we're going to go up to Bristol. And we didn't have any way to get in the pits, had nothing, right? Because we decided last minute. So we decided to go up there, and about 4 or 5 of us. One guy had a tent. We were sleeping in the cars, and we were taking showers in people's yards. You park the car in the yard, and I mean, we roughed it, man. We get bologna and fried up on a fire and had bologna sandwiches, and we're sitting around and everybody's talking to us, and we're sitting there saying, yeah, man, we built that car Richard Petty's run this weekend, and all these cats looking at us like, yeah, here's a couple of hicks sitting here eating bologna sandwiches, telling us, they really believe us, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, that race, Hamilton went out and ran pretty good. He was running pretty good in that deal. And the funny thing about that car now is key. The car qualified 28th, okay? And that thing, some reason he got into a wreck or something happened, got into a jingle, and the car ran pretty good. So they sent the car back to me, and I told Loomis, I said, send that car back to me on chassis. I'll make sure the clip's good, and this is good, and that's good, and make sure it's okay. So they sent it back. So we, I looked at it, and I think I had an upper control arm bent mount or something, something stupid. Nothing minor. The clip was perfect. Everything is good. So I made sure everything was perfect. We sent it back up to Petty. They wanted to take it in a Rockingham. No. I'm sorry. They took it to Dover. Okay. And I went up to Dover with him this time. And Loomis, he got us some passes so we could actually act like, we actually did.
Supposed to be there.
Yeah. We weren't a bunch of ham and eggers on their side of the fence there, right? So we're standing around there, and it was a weird deal. The car was fast, and Hamilton was running good, and the car qualified 28th. Okay. So it qualified 28th 2 times.
Yep.
Right. So then the darn thing went out there, and it had Friday practice, and that thing was a rocket ship. I mean, man, it was, back there in Happy Hour, that thing would come on the bottom. Yeah, Dover Downs back then, and even today, I still say you win Dover, you got to be on the bottom of the racetrack. Okay. So that car stuck to the bottom, was passing cars, and Hamilton was a good driver. So everybody felt good going to the race on Sunday. Well, the darn weather changed, and the track changed, and they dropped the green flag. That thing was so far out the lunch you couldn't see straight.
Oh.
I mean, and we looked like this thing backed up,
Yep.
And we got a couple laps down. Well, anyhow, they worked on the car, and, some things changed. Maybe the weather changed a little bit, track changed a little bit. Well, Hamilton drove that thing back up, got back on the lead lap, and he was coming. I think he ran 5th or 6th in the race. And, I mean, he was passing everything under. He looked like he did the day before, right? I mean, if he got to him, he wasn't racing. He just passed him.
Sure.
Okay, who's next? He got the next guy. He passed him. He passed 2 or 3 at a clip. And I don't remember where he ran, but he ran real well. I want to say maybe it was the top 10 or maybe might even been the top 5. Look back in '97 in the fall race at Dover. So, and we made a joke. A couple more laps, I think we could have won the race, right? So everybody's real happy and all pumped up. So they decided they're going to take that car to Rockingham. We get down to Rockingham, and car qualifies 28th. That damn thing it just seemed like it had something for 28th. It's just 3 times out of qualified 28th. They dropped the green flag. He went out and won the darn race to that car.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a fall race in '97. Bobby Hamilton won Rockingham with a car that we built, and it was a bunch of guys, me and 3 or 4 of the guys. Actually, some of the guys that worked with me then, I got them jobs at Hendrick, working in chassis shops and stuff like that. So I had a group of guys that I kept with me as long as I could. The car won, and then so that one thing led to another. Then I built a couple cars for Richard Petty, his race team. I built a truck for him, and everything we built ran good. And one time, I built that's when Petty, Kyle Petty had that PE2 or whatever the deal was. Kyle was doing his own deal, and he called me up. And he didn't have one of my chassis, but he called me up. They went and tested in Daytona, and they come to find out that to be fast, you had to raise your fuel cell up in a car.
Okay.
Raise the whole rack and the pan and everything. It was more of an error thing than anything. We couldn't find anybody to do it. I'm sitting home on a Sunday, and at that point, I had already accepted another job. I started another job on Monday morning. Because long story made short, I told the driving school and those guys, I said, I want to build race cars for a race team, and I want to turn this into a business. And, at the time it wasn't feasible, blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, and, we left them on good terms, but I decided to move on. So I'm sitting there on a Sunday it's actually Saturday, and Kyle Petty calls me. He says, Charlie, he said, I need you to do me a favor. I said, I'm not really working for you guys anymore, but what do you need? He says, well, long story made short, I went over to a shop on a Sunday morning and took a Speedway car, cut the whole fuel cell can and pan and whole deal out and raised everything up. I don't know how much it was, can't remember what. Put it back in and bailed them out. So I didn't burn any bridges with it. But I think the thing ran pretty good. But that's when Kyle was doing his own deal. I think it was PE2 or so. I forget what the deal was. Him and Bobby Kennedy and that whole crowd was over there doing that deal. Mm-hmm. And I was actually over out of Raymock's shop over here in off of Flow Store Road over here in Concord. That's he leased space from Bob Rahilly and Butch Mock over there at their shop. That's where he ran the deal out of. So we did that deal, and then I was running. I ran CC Welver Racing. It was a Bush deal. Mike McLaughlin was the driver, and we started off with a couple of rookies, and they wrecked everything we owned. And they brought in Todd Bodine and David Green. So at that, about midway through the year, the rookies didn't quite cut it, and Frank was, changed drivers and brought these other guys in. So I stayed there, and then I got another opportunity to with the same fella that owned the driving school, wanted to start an IndyCar school. So, and at the time he offered me a part ownership of the deal. So, I decided to do that. So we decided, that's when I started doing that, building those Indy cars. It was, back then it was called Kart 101. It was an IndyCar school, and it was based out of, the schools were in Las Vegas. And, but I actually built the chassis. We shopped around, flew back and forth to Indianapolis trying to find cars for the school. And I told him, I said, there's no way. I said, for a driving school, you got to have everything the same. You can't buy, old worn out Indy cars for 6 or 8 different teams, and the parts is going to be interchangeable. So I had to brainstorm, and we went ahead and decided to build our own chassis. And I even posted some of this on my Twitter account, some of the cars that we had built. Cool. There was a fellow by the name of Mark Alderson who was actually building an Indy car, and he was trying to start a series, and it wasn't getting any traction. And I saw it in Speed Sport race paper one day. I said, well, this Alderson's kind of got the same deal what we're looking for. So we called Mark up, and we were real good friends with John Bickford. That's Jeff Gordon's stepfather. So we went on to talk to John Bickford and asked him, John, what do you think we need to do? He said, I think you guys ought to just maybe get hooked up with go over there and talk to Alderson, fly out there and talk to Alderson, see if you guys can't put something together. So we went out there, and Alderson was more like he wanted his cars more like run a race car series, and we needed that kind of the design he had to run a school. And so we made it. We come to agreement. So we started building cars for the school, and then we decided to build a 2-seater Indy car, which that whole idea kind of took off. We were the first ones to do that. So long story made short, did that deal for a few years, was real successful at it, built a bunch of cars. And then I was living in Las Vegas. I was traveling all over the country, and I just wasn't ever home. So I came home one year for Christmas, and I was kind of burned out. And my wife says, Charlie says, you need to find something closer to home, because you're going to kill yourself. Sure. And so long story short, I'm walking around Hendricks. They had a museum over there, and I never thought to go look for a job over Hendrick. I was basically home on a Christmas vacation. I was going back to Las Vegas, so we're walking around and walking the museum. And at the time, the museum had like a viewing area into the 25 car shop. Well, I'm standing there, and this is the guy's honest truth. You could ask these guys this. We're standing there, and I'm looking at the shop, and there's Tony Furr was the crew chief at the time, and then Jerry Nadeau was the driver. Well, I knew of Nadeau. He knew of me. We never really knew of each other. Well, I'm looking in the shop, and all of a sudden those two guys are talking. They looked up, and all of a sudden Nadeau's pointing at me, right? I was like, and they're looking up, and then like all of a sudden, they waved me in, like to come in the building. So I went all the way around. They opened the door. They said, you ain't gonna believe what happened. I said, what's this? He said, we need a couple guys for this team. And he says, and your name came up. And Tony says, where the hell's Charlie at? He says, well, I have no idea. He said, we look up, and there you're standing there.
Wow, that's.
I mean, that is the guys. That is a true story.
See, you want to talk about working out right there, man.
Yeah, so I went to work there. That got me into the Hendrick deal, and we did good. Jerry, we had a good team there. Furr was the crew chief, and we actually won Atlanta. We were building a good little team there. And then some things happened, some management switched around and stuff like that. And then because of my me knowing Robbie Loomis knew I was on the complex somewhere, and that's when he took over as the crew chief for Jeff Gordon. And so he found out where I was and offered me a job to come up. That's when he started Jimmy Johnson's deal, the 24-48 shop.
Yep.
So he contacted me and he said, come on up. And so he offered me a job to leave the 25 car and going up to the 24-48 team. That's when Jimmy was just starting. So naturally, I rolled my toolbox up the hill and went to work there. And then I was there for 13, 14 years. Actually, my oldest son still works there, and he actually started there before on that team before I did, because at the time I was talking to Loomis. Prior to that, I was still working in Las Vegas and stuff. He's trying to get me to come to go to work there, and long story made short, I got my son a job there, and he actually wound up winning a championship before I did.
That's crazy.
With Jeff Gordon, my oldest son. He's still there. He's still at Hendrick. He does a really good job. Kyle does. So long story made short, I went there and had a good career there at Hendrick, and I got hurt on the job, and then things happened, all good, and then I was basically retired, and then still racing. My son was racing. I took a year off. So me and my son Austin, we raced, and just I said the heck with it. We're just racing my son for a while, and then Tony Furr became the crew chief of Starcom, and then he found out I was racing my son. He offered me a job, and that's how I ended up over Starcom. So that's pretty much my life in a nutshell there, without really writing a book. There's a lot of things that went on in between and all, but that's I guess without stealing your whole show, that's about what got us here.
Listen, you take as much time as you need. That's a hell of a story. I mean,
yeah,
but that's a great story, and I know there is probably a lot more that could be told with that, and a few more stories.
Oh, there's so many things I could tell you stories. I mean,
it's Starcom Racing. I actually had. I did a thing at Michigan last year with Landon Castle, and they did a thing with I'm drawing a blank on the city or the county. But there was a police organization, one of their sponsors.
Yeah, Michigan. Yes. Right? Was it a Michigan deal? Yeah. Okay. Yes. We had that. Yeah, we had that deal hanging up in our shop. They were good folks. They sent us a lot of stuff there. And we have actually hanging up in the shop. Yep.
Yeah. No. So I had Landon, I had the police chief, and I had the owner of the company that did all of the police communication stuff that they had done. Did a 4-way interview out there. That was a lot of fun. That's a good team they got out there.
Yeah, it's when I got there, they were just kind of starting out. They were in their infancy. I think it was their first year, but I didn't get into it till midsummer. So,
okay.
And they start out the season with Earnhardt, and then and then that deal. Then they had Landon, and then I did know Landon. We had some. I knew him when I was a Hendrick, and he was actually a test driver for us a while. And when he drove for JR Motorsports, so I knew Landon. So it worked out real good. But Tony Furr was the crew chief at the time, and he's the one who lured me over there. And I went over there, and one thing led to another. And then I've been there probably I don't know 3 years or so now, and run the shop. Derek Cope's the general manager. We're far from a powerhouse team. Our budget is nowhere near what we really need to do, but we're trying the best we can. We got good people in there. We don't have nowhere near the budget to do it the way we need to do it. We're doing the best we can with what we have.
Absolutely.
We've got good people working there. We don't have enough, but everything's budget related,
Absolutely.
So we're doing the best we can. We have Quinn Huff in there this year. Quinn Huff, he's going to be real good once he gets some more laps, and he's never been to some of these tracks. And we just got the season started now, so we come to a big old grinding halt. So that's where we're at today. So.
Absolutely. Charlie, talk to me about the Papa Joe Hendrick Award of Excellence that you won back in 2008. I did some homework, and I read a couple interviews that you did back in the day about this. You called it the Heisman Trophy of Motorsports. I got 2 questions for you. Number 1, did you do a Heisman pose, and what made this award so special for you?
I'll tell you what. It was kind of funny. What made that award special is because the people at Hendrick, and at the time there's nearly 600 people. They're the ones that vote on who they think it deserves it. So, and it's going on in the voting. I actually put in some ballots who I thought, you vote your people in there, right? So, with that being said, I had no idea I was going to win the thing. I do remember that day when I went to work. Our manager at the shop says, we had a big Christmas party, and that's where they usually hand the award out. And he says, "Hey, Charlie, you going to the party tonight?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I was going, but he wanted to make sure that I was going to go because he knew I was going to get this award, right?" And I had no idea, So we get there and sit down there and went through the party and blah blah blah. And then they announced that, and it just blew my mind. humbling. I mean, there's a lot of great people that came through Hendrick that's still there, and to win that is just it's amazing. And I know I did not do a pose like the Heisman. I'm well aware what that looks like. Probably because my blown out knees, I wouldn't be able to do that. But it's a very special award. I mean, because I did work with Papa Joe. Papa Joe was listed as the owner on the 25 car. I did know Papa Joe real well, and it's kind of a funny thing too. Back then, John Hendrick, who he's one of Rick's brothers that perished on the airplane. At the time, I was taking care of. He had a Legend car, and he had a nephew his driving Legend car, and I kind of started. I was taking care of his Legend car, so I had some good relationships with John Hendrick, and just about everybody was on the airplane the day that sure. Went down. Yeah. I actually had a friend of mine who actually I worked with. He actually worked with us on the Legend car, and he was when the plane went down, I thought he'd be on it because the night before they were racing at Concord, and he was offered to go. That they wanted, there was a seat on a plane for him, and he didn't go. And when I heard that went down, first thing I did is I called my friend, and thank goodness he wasn't on it. Not that I didn't want to see anybody, but I thought for sure that my buddy there would be on a plane, and he wasn't. But to win that, knowing how important Papa Joe was to the organization and still is. It's amazing. I mean, they just don't hand them things out to everybody. And I was just fortunate enough that I guess I worked hard enough or whatever I did. It's a special honor. It really is.
That's awesome. Charlie, you spent a lot of time working with Gordon and Johnson, two of the all-time greats. What was it like working with them? Did you have to approach the same situation with each of them differently? Talk a little bit about the relationship with those guys.
Well, that was a cool situation. When I went up there, Jeff Gordon's team was already established. They brought Jimmy Johnson's team in there, and I actually started about 2 or 3 months into Jimmy Johnson's rookie season of being on the 48 car. So I came in there, and the first thing Chad Canals made real positive to everybody that worked there, no matter what, if the car had a 24 on the door or if it had a 48 on the door, they all got treated the same. There was no, because at the time, and it still kind of is, well, if they changed it up since then, but at the time we were, in that shop there, we took care of the 24 and the 48 car. So, naturally, Jimmy at that time wasn't Jimmy Johnson that he is today.
Sure.
But go out and win like he did in his rookie season, become who he was amazing. But we were under strict orders. It didn't matter whose car it was; they got treated the same. You didn't shortcut nothing, blah blah blah. Which is the way I do things anyhow. And so I started there, and then I worked my way up to. I was actually working my way to the situation after a few years of being. I was actually the mechanical director, which I oversaw 6 departments, over 100 people.
That's crazy
with that deal. And then, I was part of winning the 5 championships in a row with Jimmy. And then I got injured on the job, and then I basically had retired because of my injury and stuff of that nature. And so it's all good. It's that's why I'm not there anymore, because I got injured on a job. What happened was there was some boys were towing one of Jeff Gordon's Speedway cars from one building to another, and they were towing it with a golf cart with some straps, and straps come unloose, and the car started rolling away. So me and another boy tried to run and stop the car, I always joke. I said, well, if the car's rolling 40 mile an hour, I was just trying to run 40 mile an hour. You know what I mean? So, but anyhow, I don't really remember all the details of the thing, but that's what led to my early retirement from Hendrick. So but it's all good terms. I since then had talks. A few years after that with Marshall Carlson about possibly going back to work there, but I just kept doing my own thing. I mean, yeah. I didn't really push the issue. But but the cool thing about it was there was years there. They were very approachable. They come to the shop. They would buy lunch. They'd spend time with you. They do favors for you. I had a daughter who was sick. Special needs daughter, and Jeff has a Jeff Gordon Hospital. He made sure that she got taken care of.
Oh, that's awesome.
Chad Canals, Steve Letarte at the time, Loomis, those guys, they were all excellent people to work with. There was a time out of that shop when we were there between the 48 car and the 24 car. I think one year, I don't remember what year it was, I have to look back, but out of all the races in NASCAR that season, 50% of the races were won out of that shop, either between 24 and 48.
It's crazy how the it ends up being full cycle. HMS, that they had their success with the 24, the 48. We've seen that switch over to Roush, where they had success back in the mid 2000s, and then it switched to Stuart Haas and Joe.
Yeah, it seems like everybody has their day.
Everyone's got their time. And speaking of that, Jimmy has obviously, it's no secret, he's struggled as of late. He hasn't been to victory lane in a minute. Supposedly his retirement year, but there's some rumblings going on that if things don't get fired back up this year, which I know we all hope that they do, him maybe coming back in 2021, which he can't go out with just 4 races and call it a day. He's got to.
No, you never know what's going to happen. I just kind of read an article right before I came on with you guys where Hendrick is kind of in a unique situation because the Ally has a multi-year agreement even after Jimmy were to leave, and they haven't signed Bowman yet, but it looks like they probably will because he did win. I think he won California this year, so he does a good job over there. And with Chase and Byron, they're definitely future comers, so they got a good nucleus for a young group. And I think I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy did stay another year or so. But there's also rumbles he may be doing something in a different series. So who knows? It boils down to business and logistics, and at that point it kind of gets it's more business than anything. So I'm sure Jimmy and his team will have something figured out. Of what they're going to be doing down the road. But it would be a shame. I'd sure like to see Jimmy get another championship just because he's, Richard's had his day and Dale, his day got cut short. And Jimmy, because there's no telling how many more Dale would have won.
Absolutely.
And Jimmy's, as far as a person away from the shop and the racetrack, him and Jeff both are great people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'd like to see him do it.
You mentioned the nucleus there that HMS has. HMS probably, and leave it to Rick, right? The Bill Belichick maybe of autosports to, prep himself for the future there. He had kind of one of the older stables and now has one of the younger stables. And you look at teams like SHR that now has one of the older stables. They got Cole Custer coming up now through the ranks.
Right.
You look at Richard Childress. The one thing I like about RCR is they've got a pretty solid Xfinity program going that hopefully can propel that team because that team struggled as of late.
Reddick's doing it. Reddick seems like he's doing a good job right now.
Yes, solid. So, but we've seen a lot of guys over the last 5 to 7 years between Smoke, Gordon, Kenseth, Kane, Jr., Johnson on the list. Harvick and are soon to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people want to know why aren't there fans in the stands? Well, you can't lose the nucleus of those drivers in this amount of time, and for it to a lot of these young kids, they don't have the fan base that those guys did coming up,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's hard to get it to that point.
Absolutely.
You can't lose 1 or 2 of those superstars in a year and expect, a lot of those fans, they when Dale died, they moved on, or they latched on to Junior or and a lot of I'm sure the Chase fans are ones that supported his father, because he's one most popular driver. I mean, so fans do crazy things,
Absolutely.
So I don't really know what or how they think and all, but it's tough to lose that many superstars in that quick amount of time and have them be replaced that quickly too.
Absolutely. Charlie, we'll wrap it up with this. The 2020 season's been crazy with the whole stoppage of everything. Basically, the world has come to a halt here a little bit. But the drivers and Fox and iRacing have tried to put a great show on for the fans the last couple weekends, and I've loved it because it's a great way to interact with everybody on social media. It's a couple hours to forget about things and watch it, and it's damn near perfect and realistic. What do you think of the iRacing and the eNASCAR and all that's gone on here the last couple of days?
That's an interesting subject because I'm kind of a fan to it too. I mean, I sit there and can't wait for the race on Bristol or even Wednesday night with that World Outlaws on dirt. Last week they ran World Outlaws on dirt over here at the dirt track, which is about a mile from my house. And I made a joke on Tuesday or went over on Thursday. I said, you know what? You'd never believe it. All the people were in that stands last night and how the track looks good. Just joking around, you know. But no, I'm a big fan of it. You know, I personally have never been a big gamer. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Pac-Man is probably about the only thing I ever mastered, right? Now, I did sit in a simulator a time or two, and I have a hard enough time getting a car out of the pits, let alone on the racetrack. Okay. But one thing that I've been approached with by so many people is to build simulators for them. And I would love to do something like that. I gave some thought. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of really good simulator people out there right now that are building the stuff. I almost kind of feel like I'm too late for the dance. You know, I do think that I do think
one because I need one.
I do think I could build something that's be pretty cool and affordable and I know I could do it, but it's a matter of timing and funding, and
Absolutely.
you know, I just can't. You can't build one, make it worthwhile. Exactly. I was telling a guy today, I need to build a half a dozen of them for the real get go, but then they're so popular that getting the parts for them is everything stopped. You know, so this may be a situation that's probably passed me by. You know, but I thought about it, but I think it's great. You know, I think it's cool. I mean, you get a chance to see what they're doing on TV, and Fox has picked it up, and the networks are picking it up, and the fans are, liking it and wrapping their arms around it, and it gives us something to look forward to every week. And I think it's going to be strong from here on out. One way or another, they'll find a way to do really well at it.
Absolutely, Charlie, man. Where can everybody keep up with you on social media?
Well, I actually only started. I've never really been big on social media because I didn't really have the time. And the only reason I just actually opened a Twitter account back in November, Rinse Twister 00 at Rinse Twister 00 on Twitter. I try to keep track of what we do at Starcom on a daily basis. You know, when we're racing, I try to show people what we're doing in real life. I try to show what we go through. And show them kind of what a underfunded team that's got a lot of desire to run up front, what we go through on a daily basis. I try to do that. That's kind of been slowed down a little bit because now we're not racing. So I still post stuff just about every day. I was making a joke the other day. I was doing some virtually. If I was at work, this is what we'd be doing today and stuff like that. You know, but you know, like today's post, I watched the race on TV, and everybody saw where the track bar mounts was dragging racetracks and stuff. So I kind of explained today with pictures and NASCAR rules on my post today about trying to explain to why it's like that and why people do certain things a certain way. And the bad part about it is they only give you so many characters, so you really can't. You got to kind of make it short and sweet but to the point. So I try to use the photos to help do it, but that's pretty much all I do right now. You know,
that's awesome. I love it.
So,
Charlie, man, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I definitely would love to have you back on. Something tells me you've only scratched the surface with the stories and stuff that you could talk about, man. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you and the family stay safe and healthy and get back to the racing soon, man.
Hey, Brandon, it's been a pleasure being on Lap Traffic this evening, and I'm looking forward to it. And all the fans out there, hang in there. They said we're going to get this thing through together, and I guess that we got kind of just listen to, we all got to kind of do the social distancing thing a little bit longer and try to keep these numbers down and try to get things going. And it's only best for everybody involved, yourself and your family and your friends and the nation. So just hang in there a little bit longer. And before you know it, we drop some green flags and checker flags.
Absolutely. I love it, man. Thanks so much.
Brandon, I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great.
Well, Lap Traffic Nation, how awesome of an interview was that with Charlie there? Definitely cannot wait to get him back on. Like I said, we barely scratched the surface on the things he could talk about. Hell, we didn't even talk about this year, really, and the current state of NASCAR. So definitely look forward to getting Charlie back on there. Hope you guys enjoyed that for sure. All right, I want to touch just briefly on the iRacing from this past weekend at Bristol. But before I do that, so it was working great the first few races this year, asking you guys some thoughts on the race, reading them on the show. And I was going to bring that back this week, but man, it was hard to take anything away from the race. And I don't want to encourage negativity around the iRacing or anything like that. It went exactly how I thought it was going to go. Lots of cautions due to the inexperience of the vast majority of the field. And there's nothing wrong with that. The fans of the horsies maybe got a little frustrated as this thing went way beyond the 3 p.m. End time. But again, it's more for people just being able to come together, interact a little bit, and see their drivers in a more relaxed environment. So once things get back going, like I said, I really liked getting extra interaction from you guys. So look forward to doing that once things go back to green here with actual cars on the track. That said, man, William Byron came to play. After leading 80 laps at Texas, comes and picks up the win this weekend at virtual Bristol, leading 116 of the 150 laps. 12 cautions for 66 laps. And man, if you'd have asked me right after, I would have said it was a lot more than 66 laps and 12 cautions there. But, that is what it is. Short track racing, iRacing, virtual, with not a lot of experience from that side of things. I don't even know what else to say about that. What I will say is that I was excited that DraftKings was back this weekend, their first week of contests, from the iRacing eNASCAR perspective. And it was crazy to see Timmy Hill at the top of the salary board there, costing a whopping $10,700 of your salary cap. And who would have thought Mr. Bristol, Kyle Busch, was able to be scooped up for a bargain at $6,500 there. And for those that aren't familiar with how this works, you've got to pick 6 drivers with a salary cap of $50,000. So you can see how that math would work out there real quick. But the talk at the end of the day, man, that ended up being Bubba Wallace and now his former sponsor, Blue Emu. And wow, I only got one thing to say about that.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
That is back-to-back weeks where a Will Ferrell drop just had to be used. I tweeted about it during the race about Clint ripping on him out of from a humorous perspective during the race. Bubba's tweet definitely sparked some controversy. That said, I think both sides have some merit, and I don't think either side's necessarily wrong with the stance that they might take. Obviously, if this were a points race, that doesn't happen. Sponsor paid money to have their logo on a car that still could have been on the track. Regardless of how competitive that car could have been, this is all being done in good fun by the drivers and Fox. I wonder if Bubba doesn't send that tweet and still kind of just throws in the towel. Does this explode to the level that it did? Man, maybe not. Who knows? You can what if that there. I'll be honest. I'm leaning towards the side. You made a commitment. Probably should have finished the race. I understand the frustration because a lot of the field doesn't do this on a regular basis. Being out there early, the way the cautions were going, I get the frustration from Bubba's side. I get it's a sim race, but again, there was probably some form of a contractual obligation there. Probably should have taken, whatever it would have been left, another 45, 60 minutes and finished the race. Had some fun, interacted with some fans on Twitch or whatever, and just bit the bullet there. But my opinion really doesn't matter. I'm more interested to see how this plays out. Curious if this changes verbiage and contracts down the road, and everyone gets a chance to cool off as the Easter break this weekend. Won't be back virtual racing until Sunday at Richmond. And please, can we get some more rallying behind Ryan Ellis? Can we please get a virtual truck race? That would be so cool. And one more thing, not a fan of just the Cup guys. I like the element of drivers from all three series trying to make a bid and run it on Sunday. Give these guys a spotlight that they might not ordinarily get. That's definitely how I think they are, and definitely got a text message just come through there. Sorry about that. All right. That's all I'm going to say about the racing this past weekend. I want to shift focus for a minute. I have to talk a little WrestleMania that occurred this past weekend. Huge props to WWE for being able to pull off the Super Bowl of wrestling during this whole stay-at-home stuff. I was skeptical of everything being pre-recorded, so I avoided the spoiler and dirt sheets because I wanted to enjoy it. I wanted to sit back on Saturday and Sunday and just, let the mind go for a couple hours each night and watch something that I love. And I love the fact that it was a 2-night thing, which worked because you didn't have the live audience, so you didn't have to sell 2 sets of tickets and all that kind of stuff. And huge props to the wrestlers as well for something that draws off a live crowd. To be able to put on some stellar matches without that crowd reaction and adrenaline had to be challenging. The match of the weekend wasn't even really a match as it didn't take place in the ring. The graveyard match between The Undertaker, AJ Styles. I get there's probably some criticism that it was more cinematic than an actual, match. But I think I'm okay with that, especially for this type. Keep The Undertaker looking strong. Hell, they could have hit stop and let him catch his breath for 20 minutes, and that's fine. It's entertainment. It's not real. We all know that. It's all for the entertainment dollar there, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. He came out resembling the American Badass of old, which I enjoyed. The Firefly Funhouse with Cena and Wyatt. I had to go back and rewatch that one a second time because I was not a fan of it the first time through. It wore on me a little bit the second time there. We got a new 24/7 champ from the New England Patriots, Mr. Rob Gronkowski, which is awesome. He signed a deal with WWE, so I'm curious to see how they use him down the road. We got 2 new champs in Strowman and McIntyre. Curious to see the direction they go with these guys now that they got the strap. And it's also going to be interesting to see now that they've been recording these in Florida. Florida now has the, orders and all that kind of stuff. Curious how they're able to pull off production for Raw and SmackDown. But, good weekend. I enjoyed it. There's some racing, some wrestling. Got some stuff down around the house. I will take that all day, every day. All right, let's get to a little social media. Everybody, make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. Like on Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast. On Instagram, The Lap Traffic Podcast. And, of course, and as always, on Twitter, @LapTrafficPC. Listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean. All you got to do, just search NASCAR Lap Traffic. You will find it. Don't forget about the T-shirt giveaway. About 225 or so followers away from giving T-shirt, hats, some koozies, and stickers away. And then got the big one, the 5,000 follower giveaway. Got a rear quarter panel from Eric Almirola to give away as well. And some shout-outs to some new followers. Tristan @Avids Tristan, NASCAR fan from Las Vegas. Eric @Eric_Bofen, prior United States Air Force, and a fan of racing in German cars. Thank you for your service, sir. Women in Trucking @Women in Trucking, supporting women in the trucking industry. Absolutely. Shout out to all the truckers that are getting us all the essential needs that we need right now. Absolutely fantastic. Welcome to the show. Thanks for the follow. Don't forget about the free stickers and koozie. If you want one, go to the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. Fill out the contact page. And once the stay at home is lifted, I will go and mail all of those out for sure. All right. Let's keep pressing on here and let's get one of 2 of everyone's favorite weathermen on the show, Mr. Aaron Studwell. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line. You can follow him on Twitter @RaceWeather, along with Brian Newdorf, keeping us up to date on all of the virtual happenings. But unfortunately, there's nothing to update this week. However, there is, again, big congratulations that I'm pretty confident will be in order tomorrow morning for the soon-to-be Dr. Aaron Studwell. Sir, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir. I'm doing well. And yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. See, now you're just maybe going to make me chase mine down and maybe wrap that up now. So we'll see what happens.
I'll be your writing coach. I will edit. Love doing that stuff.
That would take a minute. The coursework's done, but man, I haven't cracked a book. I haven't studied for a comp. I at this point, they probably think I'm done. I might have to, I don't even know if I'd have to reapply or whatever at this point, but I know there's still time left to go and do it as far as, from the very first course that I took to finish. There's still some time in the bank, so we'll see what happens there. But congratulations, sir. Are you nervous for the defense tomorrow?
Well, first, thank you again. I think the adjective I've come up with is anxious.
Yeah,
I'm nervous but excited.
Yeah. It's going to be a hell of a relief tomorrow to just take that sigh of relief and finally be like, I don't have to take another class again.
No, one doctorate and I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, I am good. How long do you think it'll be tomorrow?
The presentation is supposed to be around 50 minutes, and then they said give an hour for the Q&A session. Yeah, I know. And I've talked to some people who've gone through it, and they've kind of given me an idea of, bigger, broader topics, and then also kind of focusing on why did you do this? What's your motivation? What's next? Publications, all that kind of thing. So it's more of a conversational thing than go to page 97, equation 12, and show us how you did this derivation.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's formality at this point. Like, they're not going to put you through all this if they weren't happy with the paper for you to defend it.
Right. And it's a bad look for them. And this is not just on them, but it's anybody. If you get to this point and you get up there and you have this paper written, and mine is 212 pages, but that includes bibliography and all that good stuff, that it's not a good look for them if they've gone through it 3-4 times and we've gone through restructuring and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, he doesn't pass.
Yeah. That's not good for anybody. That's for sure. Well, so you obviously have taken full advantage of the stay-at-home order and pumping this thing out and getting it done. You can't go out and celebrate. You can't, that's got to be a bummer for you there.
Yeah, I was socially distancing before it was a thing.
You coined it.
Yeah, I did.
You need to get a shirt that says that. I social distance. Was a thing.
Yes, and I also had a meme I put out on Twitter. It said physical distancing, and then it had highlighted the PhD.
Nice. That's awesome. That's fantastic. I absolutely love that. So you haven't been binge watching anything. Have you been able to take in the virtual races at all?
I have been binge watched the races. I actually recorded the race, but also watched it virtually live, and then virtually watched the Grand Prix live, the GP Australia. So I gave myself some time, and it's something. You know what? I was thinking about recording tonight or not recording tonight, coming up on it. It's like, look, if I don't know it by now,
right? Yeah. What are you going to do in?
I'm 18 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not going to, I can cram a little bit. I can reinforce concepts, but I also wanted to, talk to one of my best friends, share this moment, and just kind of be on the air. And, I miss doing that.
Happy to have you. Glad you're here. Nothing wrong with decompressing for 15 minutes and having a good time there. So that is fantastic. Let's see here. Talk again about a reshift in some scheduling here. No fans for maybe a little bit here. At this point, I just want to see real cars on the track. So whatever they have to do to get this thing fired up. But the big question I think is going to be is NASCAR or North Carolina maybe might have their order lifted, but do the other states? And that's the unknown of when some of these other states could lift their contact and the social distancing and all that could play a role.
I think it has to, and I've already seen that the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal for June's been. Yeah, I think they just listed it as postponed indefinitely. They didn't cancel it, but you're looking at another regional thing where you have like New York and Michigan and these northern states that are really getting hit hard with it, and Quebec might be in that role as well, where you're saying, "Hey, June, we don't even think we can do this in June."
Well, the Detroit Grand Prix, that's been canceled. The Detroit Auto Show's been canceled. And the first NASCAR schedule that got, floated around last week or whatever it was, the June race at MIS wasn't even happening. And they were looking at a doubleheader in August. So they are definitely shifting some of the early dates and doubling up where they can and adding some weekday dates. But, you look at like Virginia, who we're still early into April, and their order is through June. I guess they could always go back and lift it. But my thing is even if all right, let's say everything, all right, we can go back to status quo. Man, I'm going to be real hesitant when they come out on whatever day it is and say, all right, go back to normal life. I'm probably going to stay inside for another 14 days beyond that date.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I think it's going to be very interesting how we come out of this. And I haven't looked at the numbers today, and I know we go a little bit into COVID-19 here, which a topic I'm the wrong kind of doctor. But
yeah, right.
I know the last 2 days the new cases has dropped off, but then they're kind of hoping that's the peak, which would be wonderful, which would be a touch ahead of schedule and a little less than we thought. But I'm not quite convinced. But then again, I'm not the kind of doctor. So
wow, they're saying Michigan's peak isn't supposed to happen until late this week and into next week. So I don't. We're still climbing. We haven't. We haven't gone down the hill yet.
Yeah, and then maybe you say like where Washington and California have plateaued, and maybe New York will peak a little earlier than you guys. And then you got a lot of states where it hasn't really gotten into yet, Oklahoma being one of them.
Yeah, no, that and I guess that's what helps when you don't have as large metropolitan areas and things can stay a little bit more spaced out for the most part there. But yeah, hopefully that stays and things can improve the course. That's for sure.
Yes.
All right, let's see here. I haven't talked about it yet, so we'll talk about it with you here. The Hall of Fame nominees and all that. Burton, Jr., Edwards. Any surprises? Anything you're kind of left in like maybe not?
To some extent, Burton. I love him. I think maybe a little bit what he's bringing to the table here and bringing to the Hall is. He was the voice of pit road. He was the voice of the driver to the safety councils and really pushing. When we first came down with that car tomorrow where the driver's seat was a little bit more to the center and the big wings and we had the roof flaps, he was key and instrumental in really kind of getting that push through. Plus, he's a 21 race winner. Won 7,500, won two Coke 600s. You had mentioned earlier off air what he did at New Hampshire.
Yep. Yeah. Last driver to lead every lap of a race. And the crazy thing is it wasn't even at Talladega or Daytona. Granted, that was I think it was the one and only time they ran a plate race at New Hampshire. Or Dover, was it? One of the two. It was definitely the East Coast there. But yeah, I'm not surprised with him at all. I think at some point, the amount of drivers that are on the all-time win lists, that are in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, those fade out. And real quick, you get into the 20s and teens drivers from a win column perspective. So I think you mentioned the 600s there and all that. You get a couple crown jewels under your belt. I think at some point that's going to put you in, whether, it's quickly after you retire or soon after. But I think that's a given, and that's the same with Junior, couple 500 wins, staple in the sport from a personality, the, most popular driver for however many years it was there, along with,
26 cup wins. 26. And that was, and if you would have asked me, I would have probably, you said over under 26. I would have probably said under. I did not realize And honestly, there are people out there who are going to probably be able to rattle off each and every one of them, though, too.
Yeah, sure. No, the diehards definitely could do that. I know the few Michigan wins and the 500s, that's for sure. His were spaced out so much, man, and there was that winless streak there. And that's where it can, and speaking of that, Carl Edwards, we were talking about that off air. 28 wins, 9 of them came in that one season where he finished second to Stewart there. I think Carl should go in. I think he was instrumental in the Xfinity series. He kind of led the charge there, along with Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch. Back when a lot of drivers on the Cup side were pulling double duty and still competing for the Xfinity Championship when they were also competing for the Cup Championship. He was out there running a ton of Xfinity races. I'm sure he's probably got at least 20 Xfinity wins. If I had to guess off the top of my head. The only thing that kind of bums me out about Carl Edwards, I get he left for personal reasons. I get that. I kind of thought maybe after a year or so, maybe he'd pop up at a track, walk around a garage or something. And he has just been completely MIA, which from a fan perspective, if you were a Carl Edwards diehard, man, you'd like to know what's going on. So that's kind of a bummer. Like, man, I wish she'd pop up for an interview with Fox or NBC or something like that, and just let everybody know what he's doing. But maybe we'll get that at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's holding out for a 30 for 30 on him.
Absolutely.
And I just looked it up. 38 Xfinity wins, 130 top fives out of 245 races. He also had 6 Truck Series wins.
Really? I did not realize the Truck Series wins there. That had to be back, between 02, 05 maybe there?
You got it. 02 was his first year where he ran 7 races. He was 22 years old.
Okay.
03, 04, he ran 2 full series, 3 wins each year. 20 in those 2 years out of 50 races, he had 22 top fives.
What team did he run for with the trucks?
Oh, now you're going to ask me that. My gosh.
I figured you're still on the page. Maybe.
I am on the page. Just have to go digging for this one.
All right. Well, I'll switch topics here for a minute while you're looking.
Thank you.
All right. No virtual racing this week. Man, that race at Bristol was definitely a crapshoot there. Lots of cautions. I talked about it a little bit ago, but you can't view it from the cautions and all that. You have to take it into account of just something to go watch on TV for Sunday for a couple hours.
Yes, virtual racing, but no simulation on the temperature or tempers. Not temperatures, tempers.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Man, that definitely there was a lot more action that continued on after the race. That's for sure there.
Oh, the Larson Suarez thing. Boy, both of them get black flag. Second week in a row for Suarez. Although the first week the dog ate his homework.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, that was just crazy between the two of them. And then we can talk a little bit. And here's one thing we talk about tempers and that, and it's really going to show me a dichotomy about Blue Emu, and this will now be their segment. Landon Castle. Really, and I'll say it this way, he did a nice job on making the plywood look like the inside of a Blue Emu car.
Yes, he did.
Carl Edwards didn't have quite as good of a look.
Carl, you mean?
Bubba Wallace. I'm looking at I'm looking at the Carl Edwards page. Yes, Carl Edwards had no look. Hey, let's get him back for the iRacing. There you go.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, alumni race.
Yeah, see, I think that's what they should do. Man, we're really going in circles here. We'll have to circle back here. I think that would be so cool. Ryan Ellis has mentioned it on Twitter, I think, after every race, let's get a truck race and run it Friday or Saturday night or whatever, which I support 100%.
Yes,
but
I would tune in.
An alumni race would be absolutely awesome. Even some of the, you got like Labonte and you got Junior who are running, and that's fine, but let's get them. Let's get Jeff Gordon. Let's get Burton. Let's get Carl Edwards. Let's get Craig Biffle. Let's get Matt Kenseth. Let's get some of these guys. Let's recreate something here from the past, and let's throw these guys out there.
And it's a lot safer than the last time we had an alumni race.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. So yeah, it's I love what they're doing. I think these will probably continue. What was it? Last Wednesday night they were running on the dirt from the iRacing, and they've got Boyer and they've got Mike Joy and they've got Gordon that are calling a dirt race on a Wednesday night for iRacing, and I love that. And I'm going to watch that. I've got nothing else to do, so I'm going to tune in and check that out. And I'm at some point, I've joked with everybody that I'm going to buy a Golden Tee machine, and that's a couple grand. And I'm like, I can go to the bar and play that. I can't go to the bar and hop in a sim rig. So, maybe.
Yep, and that's where I was last week, and I'm still there. But here's the quandary. Because you have to pay by track and because you have to pay by car, what series are you going to focus on?
Well, the focus would just be on getting a damn rig from somebody reasonably priced, because there's no way in hell I could set or build one of those. So
no,
but I tell you what,
you can go the Timmy Hill model.
That's true. I would stick to whatever series, that would maybe be more from like an IROC perspective, and something that's all stock, that where I wouldn't have to adjust tire pressure and caliper ratings and all that kind of stuff, and just go log a few laps for practice, qualify, and run the race.
Yeah, and the other thing you can do with that setup too is you can put in other video games, and I won't necessarily go through names, but there are other games out there that give is just as immersive experience where you're not necessarily paying everything to.
Yep.
And then you also have the iRacing as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. Well, sir, we don't have any racing from a virtual perspective to cover for weather this week. Sir, good luck with the defense tomorrow. I look forward to the text message that's given the thumbs up there. Look forward to talking with you in a couple weeks. And Lap Traffic Nation, make sure you follow Aaron on Twitter at RaceWeather and Brian Newdorf at NASCAR_WXMAN. Aaron, good luck tomorrow. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, sir. And watch tomorrow on Twitter for good news. And if nothing comes out saying good news, it wasn't.
Nothing but good vibes, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
All right, Lap Traffic Nation, great to catch up with Aaron. Good luck tomorrow with the defense. Man, that's some dogs barking in the background. That means it is time for this week's Lucky Dog and Lap Down Picks. You guys know the drill. Send me your Lucky Dog and Lap Down Picks from the race weekend. I'll play and read them on the show. Because, of course, you can always call the Wave Around hotline, 248-965-9538, and leave your comments there as well. I'm sticking to it. Lucky Dogs, NASCAR, Fox, iRacing, the fans, and, of course, WrestleMania this weekend. Lap down, man. COVID-19. I would love to go and play some Golden Tee right about now. That's for sure. All right. Let's get to your tweeted responses. Rowdy at the Rowdy Dragons. Lucky Dog, the fans who watched this week because we were privy to Clint Boyer, just hilarious. I've said it for the last few weeks. Clint Boyer is pure gold. Lap down goes without saying, COVID-19. I'm with you there, sir. Jess at Iowa NASCAR fans. Lucky Dog. Byron finally finished the deal. Lap down. Bubba, he's got a problem getting sponsors the way it is, and then lets his attitude get in the way and loses a sponsor over it. Tough deal. 100%. Bruce at Sim Racer 1018's Lucky Dog. Byron, obviously. A lap down. Bubba, just not good PR for him. Yep. Braxton at Braxton Chris. Lucky Dog. Boyer and the team for getting his give a damn fixed in time for the feature. Lap down. Bubba burning bridges. Yes, sir. And Joey at Joey_CLT's Lucky Dog. Byron, best iRacer wins. Lap down. Boyer, his heat race shenanigans were embarrassing. This one got sloppy. Would like to see the experienced iRacers and Xfinity Truck and ARCA more than the guys that don't have any. I think we'd get a cleaner race. Let all 80 enter and do more heat races. Joey, I'm with you there. Sharon and I were talking about this on Twitter. What's the point of heat races when everyone makes it? Start the pre-show a little earlier, plan for that a little bit more better than they did this week. Run a few more heat races, set a lineup, and cut some guys. Absolutely. All right, let's get to a couple calls on the Wave Around Hotline.
Hi, Brandon. It's Matt at Camper News. This weekend with the virtual race at Bristol Motor Speedway, it was, wow, just what you would figure. It's Bristol, baby, all these wrecks and everything that's with the race today. And, it was an unbelievable race, just with all these cautions and everything. And at one point, I raced in and tried to speed up the race, doing single-file restarts back to the old days, in the early 2000s of NASCAR. And it was just, I never thought I would ever see that again, honestly. And, probably one of the crazier iRacing events I've seen, since the coronavirus situation started. And just, a heck of a race today. Just absolutely insane. It was definitely a fun race to watch. Just, and just having fun out there. It was definitely one of the, crazier races I've seen so far. And so anyway, my lucky dog this week, definitely William Byron. He's been up there for these iRacing events. One race won 1,500 wins in his career in iRacing, and he finally got it done today. He's been up there in the last few weeks, and it's been very close and led the most laps, and finally got it done today. Very happy for William, and definitely looking forward to seeing more of that in coming weeks with iRacing. And my lap down, Daniel Suarez, having to be parked for the last two races, Texas last weekend and then Bristol today. It's just very bad, unfortunate. And then Kyle Larson, in fact, also got parked. It was definitely very unfortunate for those two, but, could that lead to rivalry in real life, when we get back to real racing? I don't know at this point, but so that's my lap down for this weekend. Lap Traffic Nation, enjoy your Easter next week, including you, Brandon, of course, and I don't know if we're going to be racing next weekend or not. I don't think we are, but if we are, then definitely I'll talk to you next weekend. If not, I'll talk to you, whenever the next race is, whether it's a couple weeks from now or whatever. And enjoy Easter, everybody, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you so much, Brandon. Take care.
Oh, Matt, thanks for calling in. Hope you have a great holiday this weekend for sure. You brought up a good point there with the single file restarts. I forgot to mention that earlier on. They definitely tried to speed things up with that, and it did not work at all. They definitely, there was talk, maybe they weren't going to call cautions when normally they would. But, man, the pileups that were just occurring, they had no choice but to throw them. And that resulted, as I mentioned, we went well beyond the 3 o'clock end time there for sure. All right, one more call. It looks like it is from the voice of the Wave Around Hotline.
What's up, Brandon? Voice of the Wave Around Hotline. Quarantined Camps calling in. Not that I really have anything to say. I haven't, done squat during quarantine other than, eat, jump on the PS4 and, work out every now and then. I hope everyone's staying safe, enjoying the iRacing if that's your cup of tea. Personally, not mine. I haven't watched it. Don't care to watch it. Don't care to watch a virtual concert. Don't care to watch a virtual anything. It's not the real thing. Just let's try to stay safe and not be disgusting and spread germs like disgusting people. And, proper hygiene. And, this is your gal getting this health lesson now from asshole calling into a NASCAR podcast when there's no NASCAR to talk about. So that's that. I don't know what else. I don't know what else there is to say. I haven't even done anything funny recently. It's not like there's any bars open for me to cause a ruckus in. I'm just looking forward to going downtown, having a few beers, and coming home and making hamburgers at like 2 o'clock in the morning. That's kind of been my new routine since I moved down here. So, yeah, you be safe, bud. I hope all the listeners are safe, and can't wait to talk some racing soon.
Good to hear from Mr. Andrew Cancian. Normally he gives me a little heads up that I might need to get the bleep button ready there. So I had to go back and edit those in there. Good to hear your voice, sir. Hope all's going well, and can't wait to get some takes from you on some actual racing here in just a little bit, hopefully. All right, Lap Traffic Nation. Man, wish we could talk some fantasy, but soon enough. That is going to do it for episode 176 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. Like on Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast. Follow on Twitter at LapTrafficPC. Subscribe, download on iTunes, Podbean, or your favorite hosting site. Subscribe, leave a review, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Big thanks to Charlie Langenstein and Aaron Studwell for coming on the show. I'll work on something for next week. Stay safe, stay healthy. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Make sure you tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!